this video, I talk about the new Age of Sigmar Warcry, do a bit of an unboxing, and explain what kind of game it is and whether you'd be interested. So I have literally had this new Warcry game in the box and all that for, as of recording this, just about 2 hours. So I'm not gonna be able to give you a review of the game. I don't really do that. If you've been watching the channel for a while, you know that. But what I will do is show you all of the cool parts inside, and it does come with all of the parts. There's a lot of parts, let's just say that. But I also, because I've been playing these games for a couple of decades and I've got a lot of experience with that, and I've been in this channel for a long time, I've been in the industry on and out, you know, for quite some time, and I've been in marketing for a long time, I can generally, once I know a bit about a game, I can usually tell who the market is for that game based off of what the, you know, the game company has said and has been showing and all that kind of stuff. So hopefully I can kind of help you figure out whether this is something you're interested in or maybe it's not targeted towards you specifically. So it weighs a lot and it comes with a lot of stuff in it. I'm gonna start trying to open some of it here. This starter set includes all the terrain. It includes the board, and it's about basically the same size board as Kill Team. There's a lot of similarities in Kill Team and this game to some degree, but then there's also a bunch of differences, and there's similarities to other games, which I'll get to in a little bit. So, it comes with a lot of plastic. This is just a lot of plastic. I don't even know where I'm gonna be able to put this on my little table here. Okay, just to start, you're gonna get a lot of sprues. There's a lot of sprues inside this box that show you a lot of kind of warriors. There's 2 war bands that come in the box. This is everything you need to play, just so you know, if you buy the big box, everything you need to play. However, you can also just buy the cards separately, you can buy the book separately, you can buy a lot of different stuff. And the reason that that's important is because it wasn't until literally just recently, just the last couple of days when they kind of started to share that information on the ageofsigmar.com/warcry website, they finally shared, well, if you've got other armies besides Chaos that are already Age of Sigmar armies, here's the models that you'll be able to use to build your own war bands. There's stuff for Order, there's stuff for Destruction, there's stuff for Death. So you got Night Haunts, you got Flesh Eater Courts, you got Stormcast, you got Iron Skulls, like all those different things. They show you, here are the models that you can use in the game if you don't want to go with one of the 6 Chaos bands that will be eventually released. 2 of them come in this box. It's the Iron Golems and the Untamed ones, or something. Untamed Beasts and the Iron Golems. I really like, when I've been looking now at over the last couple of months as they've been showing off all these models, honestly the 2 that come in the box are my favorite. The bird guys, the Corvus, whatever, those guys are pretty cool too. The other ones are just kind of not really my aesthetic. Kind of like Eldar are not my aesthetic. I'm not saying they're bad sculpts. They seem to be great. It's just that, you know, everyone's got different things that they like, and I like the ones that come in the box, which is really actually quite helpful for me. So yeah, like I said, lots and lots and lots of sprues. Most of them are figures. You've got, these are some of the creatures. The game has got war bands, so you've got 2 war bands who are fighting against each other over 3-dimensional terrain, much like Kill Team. Unlike Kill Team, there's also, in some of the scenarios, extra creatures running around that can cause trouble. This is one of them. And there's a lot of these extra creatures. Some of them can fly and have pretty cool wings, which I think is also very interesting. Very spindly, but you know, probably not gonna be able to take a lot of damage as far as like if you step on them or something like that, but still, you know, it's the standard GW plastic. It's also gray too, which is very different from the plastic that was in the Kill Team starter box, whereas you had the Genestealer Cults, and they were, I think, in maybe tan? I don't remember exactly what color. And I know that the AdMech were in red. And sometimes I almost feel as if that colored plastic is just the slightest bit inferior. And I don't have anything to back that up, but I just feel like it's a touch softer than the nice gray stuff. You also have, besides all the terrain, which fills the bottom of this area, you've also got bridges and cool stuff like that. I'm going to just put these on the floor. So these are very cool kind of bridges and spiky bits. Strangely, there's a lot of skulls. Who would have thought? But yeah, you know, here's some skeleton dudes hanging off of probably ramparts and all kinds of jazz. Here we start to get into the cool-looking kind of ruined Age of Sigmar style terrain, and there's a lot of that as well. Here's another giant, and heavy sprues too, thick stuff. I think it's way better quality than some of the terrain that you sometimes see, you know, from some of the Age of Sigmar line. There are some pieces from the Age of Sigmar line which are of a slightly softer, lower detail plastic, but this stuff is all pretty awesome stuff. Again, we've got, there's a giant bell, you know, for ringing. I'm going to have to throw this down here as well. I should have a little table instead of dumping that stuff on the floor, but I did not plan as well as I could have. So you've got your bell, which maybe is an objective. Bunch of cool wood, other side of the bell, more skeletons stuck in little frames, you know, more skeleton. There's a lot of skeletons. I expect skulls. I made a little joke before about the skulls. I expect skulls. There's a lot more skeletons in this than there are in many of the other pieces that they do. This is also a cool piece that I've been seeing too. I didn't even think this included. This is just a giant, like, stone head. Like this was part of a big statue that fell down a long, long time ago. And again, just the amount of terrain in this box is amazing, especially since it's played on the same style, the same size board, basically, as the 22 by 30 board as Kill Team. Again, more big, thick, heavy line of sight blocking. A lot of the other ones weren't necessarily, although that's not really going to be a big deal because it's a lot more about kind of melee combat. You have some melee stuff that will allow you to kind of hit guys a little bit further away. Some you have to be base to base and some stuff you don't, but it's still, you know, there's a lot of, it's mostly melee combat in this game, which is the case also with, you know, Age of Sigmar in general. Now, I do know that the Stormcast, like let's say you're not interested in any of this chaos shenanigans, it's way too pointy for you, and you know, your fingers are very delicate like mine, then maybe you want to do something like Stormcast, who are generally not that pointy. I've noticed that the Stormcast list that you're showing on the website right now, there's a lot of range attack in that. So if you're more of a range person, and I generally am, then maybe that's the way to go for you. But you also get to bring a cool Griffhound if you want to, and those guys are a lot of fun. So then there's a big cool piece of artwork that protects the rest of the stuff from the, you know, the rest of the components, the sprues from the components, so your components aren't all beat up once you get them. And then we get into the board. So now the difference between this board, in my opinion, is that it seems to be like it's not, how am I trying to say this? The boards for Kill Team could be very small. Like they actually will fold another time. You know, they do sell some of those, but then this is the nicer kind of not so small board, which is actually quite useful. You know, it's the same size, but it doesn't fold down as small as I'm saying. Whole bunch of tokens here. You know, you've got the new GW loves tokens. I love tokens because my memory is garbage. So remembering whether or not something went or shot or charged, you know, this round is sometimes outside of my area of ability. I'm just not able to do it. So, you know, having a lot of tokens is very useful, I think. Now we get into many decks of cards. Battlefield cards, deck 2, twist cards. The way that the scenarios and things are done are generally, it's a very random, you pick, like this is the way the terrain's set up, this is the way the deployment's set up, this is then the twist, and then this is like the victory conditions. And so it's designed that way. So you've got cards for all of that. Here we've got deployment cards, and we've also got victory cards, and fighter and divider deck. I don't know, those are pretty cool looking. You also get big cards. So these big cards are kind of almost like reference cards for special abilities that the figures are able to do depending on how well you roll your initiative roll. The initiative roll on this game I think is really interesting. When you roll your dice, any doubles, let's say you roll, I don't know, 6 dice or whatever, any doubles you get give you powers later on. Like the Iron Golem has a spine-crushing blow that can be done with a double later on down the road in the rest of that turn. But whether you get to go first or not depends upon how many singles you have. So if you have like a double and a triple and only one single, which your opponent didn't get many doubles or triples, but did get a bunch of singles, then they get the initiative and they get to go first, but then you're going to have more powers towards the end of the way. So I think it's a really smart system for kind of, you know, you're not completely putting everything into the initiative and that's like the big winner for every turn. It's very, yeah, you may have gotten to go first, but I get extra cool powers because I've gotten more doubles and that kind of stuff. When I first found out about it, I thought it was real smart. Evidently, we've got ourselves some sort of book that you can get, and then underneath, you know, more cool symbology. There's a lot of symbology. There's a lot of icons in this game. I'll show you that in the book in a little bit here. A whole bunch of plastic bags, dice, 3 colors dice. They're not particularly exactly custom. Like they don't have all kinds of weird symbols and stuff like that, like Shadespire does. But they do have a cool symbol on the 6, because, you know, you like that. And I really appreciate that it's on the 6 and not on the 1. Some Games Workshop custom dice have stuff on both the 6 and the 1, and that really throws me off. So I appreciate that they did that. Ton of bases. Even comes with a ruler. I mean, honestly, like everything that you're gonna need to play is in this starter box. The whole concept behind it is that I think that they want to make this a bit of a game designed to really get new people into the hobby, and this is a one-stop shop for being able to do that whole thing. Now, the rulebook, again, if you already have a bunch of Age of Sigmar folks who are not Chaos, and if you already have, you know, some terrain and things like that, you could still play this game with just this book, definitely. Now, the cards that do seem to come in the game do show you this is how you should try to set up the terrain when you flip down the deployment card, and then the type of card for what type of terrain to put down. So if your terrain is wildly different in shape and scope, you may want to think about still getting some of the terrain, which they'll also, I believe, sell separately. But yeah, the book here goes through a lot of stuff, and obviously it's filled with gorgeous photography and all that kind of stuff. They've moved much more into, if you've been doing this for a while, they've moved much more into photography than art. There's still art, you know, you still got, you know, this handsome fellow over here, but there's a lot of still photography showing off the models and that kind of stuff in the newer GW books, in my opinion. You got your Cypher Lords, you got your Corvus Cabal. Those are the bird guys that I think that I might also be interested in. There's the Iron Golem folks, which I think are pretty cool. Untamed Beasts. So they give you a lot of information in here and references on what to, you know, how to paint and that kind of stuff. They give you also a lot of fluff about the different groups and all that kind of jazz, which is really cool. And then in the back, and well, actually more than the back, it's pretty much the whole, you know, half of the book is all of the rules. And there's narrative play, there's campaign play, there's match play, there's open play. I mean, a lot of this really kind of follows up with a lot of other Games Workshop games that are going on right now. The thing that's interesting about this game, in my opinion, when it first was talked about, a lot of people are like, oh, it's cool, it's a, you know, Age of Sigmar kill team. And sort of, it's got a little bit of that, I'm not gonna lie. The difference is that in in Kill Team, it's designed completely to be used with the current model line that's out there, your 40K models that are out there. Not all of them, there's specific ones. You can't take lots of huge, you can't take an Imperial Knight, sit on the table and go to town, but the models have all been produced. They didn't make really any new models, for the most part, for Kill Team. When we started seeing these new Chaos Warbands, then a lot of people started to think, well, can you only play it with these models? Kind of like Necromunda. Necromunda is designed to be pretty much only played with the gangs that they release. They sell a box, You get a bunch of Van Saar or Eschers or Goliaths in the box, and then you put them together, and that's your battle force, and that's what you use. You don't use 40K models. You don't use something else. You just pretty much use those things. And there was some thought that this was the way that this game was going to go. As it's turned out, they've kind of split the difference and done both, in that you can use, if you want to play Chaos, they've got these Chaos guys. But if you want to play anything else, then you can use the current model range, you know, within reason. They again, in the website and things like that, they tell you these are the models that are usable. And then that way you can really kind of get out there and play with the interesting models that you really enjoy. So if this game's for you, are you starting out with nothing? This could be a way to go, because literally everything down to the ruler and the dice, it's something that you could have. There's a lot to it, but if you already have models, if you don't already have models, there's a lot of things that you can do to make this game. I think it's not super customizable, and it's even got, to some degree, it's got a little bit something else to do kind of with Shadespire. In Kill Team and in Necromunda and things like that, it's a lot about stats. You see a lot of numbers. When you're looking at your character's information, that information is done in numbers. You've got a 3-up ballistic skill, you've got a whatever weapon, you know, your strength, your toughness, all that stuff's numerically handled. This game reminds me a lot of Shadespire in that there's a lot of icons. Instead of saying, hey, this is your toughness and we're going to put a T there, instead they're going to show a little icon and give a number. So it's mixing in a little bit of Shadespire. I'm not saying they're compatible in any way, don't get me wrong, but I am saying that if you're used to the way that Shadespire is played with a lot of iconography and runes is what they like to call them, then this is going to make a little bit more sense to you. If you are used to only looking at numbers, this is going to be a little jarring, I think, at first. You'll get used to it, probably, but it comes across, I think, a little bit more simply, but I don't know. As I've been going through some of the stuff in the book, I just have a hard time sometimes saying, I don't know what that means. Like, what does that icon mean? And it will come eventually, but sometimes I think there's a benefit to just having the word say toughness or something like that. But I'm not a designer as far as that's concerned. So if you like the iconography and that kind of ease of play to some degree, if that's cool to you in Shadespire, then this is maybe a little bit more up your alley. If you're, again, like I said, starting out with pretty much nothing, you don't have any kind of Age of Sigmar anything, or any kind of miniatures game at all, this may be not a bad place to start if you want to go in and you've got a bunch of friends who also like the same type of thing. If you are already playing Age of Sigmar, then you've already got some of the models probably that you can use to play this. And if you really like the Chaos models that are going to be in this line, then this is another good thing to get into. They will be selling these Chaos models separately too. So if you look at some of the models and you're like, hey, those are very cool, but I just don't know if I'm interested in playing the game, well, then you can buy those models and use them for all kinds of cool stuff. I could see already some of them modifying them, giving them sci-fi guns and using them in something else that I've got kind of in the back of my head. So keeping all of that in mind, if you're looking for a super deep, really crunchy big army game, this is not for you. If you like Kill Team and you want fantasy Kill Team, this isn't necessarily the wrong direction to go. If you like Shadespire and you want to go further and have a little bit more stuff going on in three-dimensional terrain, also not a bad idea. If you're interested in a game with a lot of different models that you can use, just tons and tons of different models and models from different lines and things like that, this may be not exactly what you're looking for, because they've got the 6 Chaos bands and they've got certain stuff that you can use from the other 3, Grand Alliances. But beyond that, it's kind of locked down. It is not 40K. It is not Age of Sigmar. It's its own little small kind of tight game, kind of like Kill Team, but with less guns for the most part. So I hope that just seeing how much plastic is in the box maybe has helped some people understand, why the price is what it is. Maybe understanding also that it's a completely and entirely compact, all put together game that even plays in a small area just like Kill Team. Hopefully that'll help people understand a little bit as well. People who are looking for a big kind of army game with lots of customization, I don't know that this is necessarily the way to go. It all kind of depends. If you're looking, again, like I said, if you're looking to get into the hobby and you're starting out from almost scratch, you don't have any terrain, you don't have any models, but you're really interested in the concept of getting in and playing, if you want terrain and models, this is a really good way to go. If you're just looking for models, well, then you've probably already started playing games like, you know, Warhammer Underworld, Shadespire, Night Vault, whatever. But if you're looking for something with great looking terrain, and this stuff is amazing, then you might want to take a little bit more of a look at Warcry.